Ready? Okay, I'd like to call the August 8th meeting of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission to order. Lori, could we have a roll call?
Sure. Alternate Flanagan. Oh, he's not gonna be here. Sorry, I forgot this one. He's got that for a minute. Alternate Bailey here. Commissioner Whittington.
Here.
Commissioner Spillman.
Here.
Commissioner Lindquist.
Here.
Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Chair Martinik.
Here. Does anyone have any revisions to the agenda?
I do.
You do?
Do I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. If we could please, switch under new and continued business. We could switch A and B and take care of the advisory member decision first and then go into the COA. Unless you guys object.
So with the new advisory member who participated in today's meeting.
Okay, any other revisions? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as, you know,
I move
altered?
that we approve the amended agenda.
Edward seconds.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Are there any changes to the minutes from July 25th?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
I, rather than go through them all, I wrote them out and gave them to Lori already. There were a number of places where I thought there ought to be some minor corrections, basically, and one correction of date.
If you could just please, if you do want to approve them, they're just with minor. I don't think anything of substance, is that correct, Commissioner Whittington? It's not anything drastic, that
No.
more typos than anything
Basically,
spelling.
clarification,
Okay.
replacing by with two in one place and things like that. Pretty minor stuff.
So it would be up to you guys whether you want to go ahead and approve them with the minor changes, or you want to wait to see the revised copy. Up to you guys.
Well, do I have a motion to approve them with the minor changes?
I move to approve the minutes with Commissioner Whittington's minor changes. I'll second that.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay. We're up to public comment, items not on the agenda. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to us on an item that is not on the agenda? Anybody on?
No,
Nope.
no.
Okay, moving right along. Housekeeping items.
Pretty self-explanatory. At the August 1st meeting, Chair Martinik and Commissioner Spillman were reappointed by the mayor. And the contract with Metcalf has been executed and sent to History Colorado. I will elaborate on that for just 1 second. I got an email back from Lindsay, telling us I was so worried about the contract, I kind of forgot a few things that were also deliverables, so luckily she's okay with that. And I'll get those to her, because they're stuff we already have, so it's not something I have to go find. And then she also sent out an email asking when a good time for our kickoff meeting would be, which Chapin will join me and will be representative of the city. And then there's 3 different people, 4 maybe from Metcalf, no, 4 from District Colorado that will be coming, and then 2 or 3 from Metcalf that will do that kickoff meeting, and that will try to set up some open houses and basically a timeline of when things will start
Do
going.
you not want us involved in that?
In the kickoff meeting, no, the kickoff meeting needs to be city staff. It has to do with contractual
Okay,
agreements and things like that. That doesn't really have anything to do with what Metcalf is going to be doing.
Mhm.
So after that meeting, then we'll set up a meeting with Metcalf and the commission on our plans going forward and how we can assist them in whatever they need to do. So
do you think this will all be done by the end of August, or?
I'm hoping so. The dates that they gave us for our kickoff meeting for city staff, District Colorado and Metcalf is all in August. So hopefully we'll get that meeting done. And then we can go on and get it going. So hopefully they're also doing some research. I also got an email from Jenny at Metcalf that said August 21st or 23rd would be best for them. So that their new architectural historian has time to familiarize herself with actual Metcalf, the way Metcalf does things. I think she said she starts on August 14th, so they have hired someone and they will be part of this project. So they're wanting to get her in for a couple of weeks before she gets started on this project.
Okay,
Did they let you know anything about that person?
No, I don't even have a name. I was gonna follow up with that, try to get a name and some background information, but I don't have anything at this time. So. And I hate to say it doesn't matter, we're not backing out of this contract now. Especially when we got the money from the city and we're all set to go on this one, so,
mhm,
but I will try to find out some information on that, see.
okay. Is that it for housekeeping?
I do believe so.
Okay, then we get to, and this is probably you too, Lori, or whoever, 140 East 8th.
And I actually just put that on there because I have absolutely no update to tell you, except that I've requested the information we talked about at last meeting, the building approval form and the stamped plans and the building permit form, and I have not heard back from the county, so I'll have to follow up with that again.
So county planning is the one that should be
Yes.
responding to us.
Right, that's where those documents would reside, so I did request them, but
Did you send it to anybody?
Ann and Marla, I did send, I copied Marla and I sent it to Ann and Marla, because I thought Ann didn't have time, Marla would take care of it, so
They've been out of the office for the past week or two, so.
I'll probably follow up next week with that, just to see if I can get those documents.
Okay, good. Well, I'm eager to hear what they have to say. Now we get to the advisory members' decision, since we've switched the agenda around. And we have two applicants, and one of them, Stuart, is here, and he has offered to leave if we want him to leave. Lori said she didn't think it was, necessary, but how did the rest of you feel?
Now, maybe just for context, city council, when they elect their members, all those members are present in the meeting. And so that precedent has even been recently exercised, so no concerns from staff.
Are you going to require us to do written ballots, or can we just do it verbally?
I think that I welcome I guess the commission's input on that.
Exactly, we can do it either way, and however you guys would rather do
There's
it,
no clarification in city code on that, so.
it's however you're most comfortable doing it, we can get some papers, and
Council did written.
do the written ballot.
I'm more than happy to step out and let you folks discuss.
Well, you don't have to step out, apparently. We're fine with that, but if you would feel,
Would like him to, that's up to the commission, it's just not.
nobody said
required.
it, so I don't know. How do you feel?
It's how you guys feel.
I'll just step out.
Well, I was gonna say, if you want to step out, that's the other question. Well, we can, make our voices sound different. I can talk like this. Okay, but anyway, we have, applications from Paul Mueller and from Stuart, and letters of interest. So have you had a chance to look at these? Do you need to?
Let's see.
Right back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's behind.
The last
you.
pages.
We just looked from.
Yeah, so we're deciding on one of Stuart or Paul for the open advisory.
Yes, for the open advisory.
Yeah,
That whole.
I guess
thing.
I would say that I'm impressed by Stuart's experience and qualifications and interest in Leadville.
Mhm.
I wasn't here at the last meeting to hear them talk, but in reading the notes today again, I noticed that Stuart had lots of questions and lots of input already. Didn't really hear anything out of Paul.
Yeah, he attended via Zoom. He did make a few comments, but not to any great extent. And Huh?
I have my decision.
You have your decision. Are you going to reveal it to us? No, you don't have to.
I think Stuart.
We can vote,
And
you
him
know.
just being here,
Hmm?
it's him just being here as well, just shows he's taking initiative and, yeah.
We're doing a verbal vote.
Well,
Yeah, and
if
actually,
you
you
would like to, again, it's up to you, but.
couldn't be voting since.
Oh, that's right, I'm on.
But you're just in discussion. and
Right, right now you're just in discussion
Okay.
and deliberation, and you can take a poll and see what everyone thinks without the actual vote, and then make your motion on a specific person if you'd rather. You know what I mean? But
Well, I talked to Stuart and his wife right after I had to give that speech at the state of the city or whatever it was. And he said at that time, they both said they were interested in historic preservation. And then I met with them at the coffee shop one day. We talked about it some more, you know, they told me about their house here and their house in Denver and everything like that. So I've talked to them several times and then, of course, as you probably are aware, Stuart's wife is now a council member. She was named to the council when somebody.
right.
And I told him I thought that she probably would, that they probably were well capable of having their own opinions on these things without, and which I do feel, having known her when she worked for the EPA. And so I do feel that they, you know, that would not be a conflict of interest, especially, you know. Anyway, that's sort of how I feel. He has shown a lot of interest though, and has followed up on all this. Anybody else have a comment? You can comment.
No,
Nancy.
you don't. It's okay.
You absolutely can comment.
No, I
Because you can't vote.
Have you had a chance
This is
to?
the first meeting you haven't voted, so it's like someone said, oh.
No comment though?
Well, just that Stuart had a lot more input at the last meeting, than something I noticed, so I thought that was a positive thing.
Mhm.
Anything?
How do you want to vote? Do you want to vote by a piece of paper or can we?
Why
Just-
why don't we just do a show of hands and then just do a motion on the person?
Okay, why don't we do a motion? Do I have a motion to appoint somebody? Somebody?
Right, but just take it, yeah, volunteer.
You show hands first.
Right.
and then motion.
Right,
Yeah,
so I guess who would support Stuart?
I'm saying, who's in favor of Stuart? Okay, I think we should make a motion.
Right, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission appoint Stuart Francone to our open advisory member spot.
Edward seconds.
Okay, all in favor, aye? Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. She rolls her eyes too much. Okay, Commissioner Edwards,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanfus,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Commissioner Whittington,
Yes,
Chair Moss.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah, please, thank you.
Any consolation prize for Paul?
well, I don't know. He doesn't.
Very qualified.
He's very qualified, and I'm sorry we don't have another spot or something that we can put together. Maybe someday we can talk about that. If we
Right.
have more people that are interested, that
And
there
I
could
will
be
say
a
that
committee
Chase
of
and I
some.
discussed
Yeah,
both of them being
okay.
advisory,
Mhm.
members. But the way code reads and then trying to coordinate 4 different people for a pre-application meeting seemed a little cumbersome for Chapin. And code was pretty clear on 2 advisory members, so we thought we better just go ahead and stick with that, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish we could. And if we should have something.
Yeah, I guess we don't want to go through changing the code again so quickly.
Not on something like that. I feel like we got more important things to. So, yeah.
Anyway, Stuart, congratulations.
Well done, Stuart. Yes, the advisory committee report.
Yes. We look forward to having you working with us and working with you. And you're,
next year, there's one more.
there's Mark, so if you want to sit up, anyway, okay. Next, we go back to it goes back to my little script.
Yes, I'm sorry, but the script comes into play now.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Marcia Martinek, and I'm the chairperson of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission. This is a public meeting before the Historic Preservation Commission to consider a certificate of appropriateness by Jacqueline Ross and Christopher Ricketts, requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the property known as 304 West 7th Street for residential infill. And then we go to a part I leave out because we've already done it.
Oh, sorry.
If you would like to make, okay,
Well, go ahead and read that one, because just at least at the part where I will then ask the.
I'll read the
applicant-
whole thing.
Okay, sorry.
When the public meeting is opened, I will first attend to some preliminary housekeeping matters. I will then ask the applicant to make a presentation of their case first, followed by testimony of any individuals in the audience who wish to speak in favor of the application, and then those individuals which wish to speak in opposition to the application. If those of you who would like to make comments, please make sure you sign the sign-in sheet, which is up here on the corner of the table. And introduce yourself when you're called upon, and understand that this meeting must be recorded for official purposes. For the official record, the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal, which is the applicant's opportunity to respond to any comments made by members of the public. After rebuttal, I will close the public input portion of the public meeting and allow Historic Preservation Commissioners an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and staff. Once the public input portion of the meeting is closed, we will not accept additional testimony unless it is in response to questions posed by the commission of the applicant. At the conclusion of our questioning, the Historic Preservation Commission will deliberate and render a recommendation on the application. The recommendation will be forwarded to City Council for a public hearing. City Council will make a decision on August 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. during the regular City Council meeting. Does anyone have a question about the public meeting procedure? Okay. Notice of this meeting is required to be published in the newspaper at least 15 days prior to tonight's meeting. In addition, the property must be posted. A notification to all property owners within 200 feet of the property must be sent. Ms. Ty, have the requirements been met?
Yes.
Okay. Evidence of notice is hereby made a part of the record, as are the application materials, the Leadville zoning ordinance, the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, any correspondence received prior to the published deadline and in the course of tonight's hearing, and other documents, photographs, or other material introduced at the hearing. At this time, I'd like to ask the HPC commissioners for a disclosure of any conflict of interest or ex parte communications with the applicants. So does anybody have anything? Oh, no. Okay. I don't either, so. I will now open the public meeting on the application for Jacqueline Ross and Christopher Ricketts at 304 West 7th Street. So will the applicant please present?
Oh, see, you usually do staff presentation first. Sorry, it's.
That's okay, that's usually in a public hearing, especially for CUPs, the public meeting, which is a little bit different, but we can do it either way. Staff, can go ahead and present first.
Staff wants to present first.
Is that all right? I prefer that. Is that all right, Commissioner?
Is it all right with the commission? It's fine with me, okay.
All right, good deal. That way I can cover a lot of the code criteria and then.
Sure.
The applicant can cover kind of more of the background, some supporting information. All right. So good evening. For the record, for recording the benefit of the public, I'm Chief LaChance, Planning Director, Community Development Director for the City of Leadville. So in your, so just for the benefit of everyone in the commission, in your packet, which included a staff report from myself that fully evaluates all the code criteria for your recommendation tonight. My plan is to give a full summary of the staff report and the criteria for approval. If you all would like for me to make that even more brief, just let me know before I start. And then again, your motion tonight is a recommendation to City Council for approval. So just for the benefit of everyone, we're not decision-making bodies making a recommendation to our elected officials. for the making a recommendation. And then our plan will be that we go to city council next week. All right. All right, so this proposal is for the construction of a new single-family residence at the location shown on the screen at 304 West 7th Street. This is a vacant lot. The previously existing historic home was approved for demolition by the city council in 2022, and that demolition has occurred. So this is a vacant lot. So this COA application is for the construction of the new residence. The site, there's a topographic map that's included in your packet, but the site drops. We just take back up on that satellite image if you mind. That site dropped pretty significantly from the alley towards the street. There's about 30 feet in elevation change from what you can kind of see is the alley, the uppermost portion of that photo down to the street. It's about a 25% grade, average grade across the property. So we definitely consider that as we're evaluating this tonight. And then we're go to page 18, please. It's the Sanborn map. So just provide a little historic context for the site and the street. There, as you can see from, this is from the 1889, and basically the original Sanborn map. And this map, as you can see, shows that there are four historic homes that were kind of on the steepest section of the street here. And it's my understanding that the reason why those four homes are located on the right-hand side of the screen are located the way they were is because of the topography. So they're located at the back, accessed off of the alley. And I think that slope kind of drops towards the top of the hill there as you move towards the west, which is why some of the other homes are located closer to the street. So as you can see, four historic homes are kind of aligned towards the back half of the lot historically. All right, so this home is proposed as and go to page 49, please. I'm sorry, I can't share screen and look at my notes at the same time, so she's going to run the visuals. This home is proposed as a 3-story, 3,700 square feet approximate single family home. So your staff report evaluates really two sets of rules. It's the code criteria that's in chapter 17 of the zoning code, and then also the residential infill design guidelines and standards, which are used by reference through Title 17. So in your staff report, and this is, if you want to follow along with me in your packet, for any reason, this is the staff report kind of evaluation code criteria starts on page 18 of your packet. There are there's 10 criteria in the code regarding appropriateness. So this is before we even get to the residential infill design guidelines and standards. So I quoted that criteria in your packet. The first 7 are not applicable because the existing historic structure, previously existing historic structure has been demolished. So we're really just looking at criteria 8, 9, and 10. Criteria 8 is about the new structure being a product of its own time. So my evaluation of that is that this structure is really blending a combination of some features that really helps identify it as current construction versus historic construction. You just pan up to the roof lines if you don't want it. So traditionally, we really in Leadville, it's my understanding, we really did not see what's proposed here is kind of this primary gable, which is kind of transitioning into the it's really the secondary gable, which is the primary facade. That's transitioning into the secondary facade, which is really your primary roof line. That's a fairly unique combination we don't see throughout town. So it's taking those traditional roof lines, traditional roof forms, and kind of switching up those modules into a combination that is somewhat unique. So I think that's, there's a couple other things, but really the key thing that I've identified with this really speaks to being a product of its own type. Time and place, not a replica. I don't seem to be else like this in town. I do have a question for you all tonight. I have like 3 questions in your report. That's actually the first question that I have for you. Is just to see if you agree with that. The criteria number 9 is regarding, it basically says that contemporary structures shall not be discouraged. And so I'm actually not finding that, this is what I consider the in terms of architecture, a contemporary structure is really trying to blend in with traditional type construction. So therefore, it's really not applicable because it's not contemporary architecture. Number 10 is the project is respecting the appearance of Leadville. I'm just paraphrasing here. That's honored, the appearance of Leadville is honored and protected. So I think this design is honoring the appearance of Leadville through its just use of that traditional construction features. And then it's protecting Leadville's appearance through height, scaling, and massing. We'll get into that a bit more in detail. So that wraps up the Title 17 criteria evaluation. So I'll move into discussion of residential infill design guidelines and standards. So we have 16 policies. I'm not going to read the policies in the code. They're quoted in your staff report, but I'll talk about how this project how this project meets those policies. The first policy is regarding site context. If we could go to page 46, please. And just scroll down a bit so you can see the site. So this house is proposed really on the rear half of the lot, north half of the lot. And the applicant with this image that they submitted is demonstrating that they are aligning with the other historic structures, at a minimum, those three most adjacent historic structures. In terms of width and length, this is a narrow structure that I guess is proportionate to the lot. The lot is narrow, but long, so the structure is also narrow and long. It's oriented perpendicular to the street. All these things are encouraged by that first policy. So finding it complies with the first policy. Second policy is views. I got 16, to go. Is this okay so far?
Yes.
Okay. The second policy is regarding views and sorry, Lori, 20 ways. So in your staff report, I included a little image, but I think this looks like an image at the bottom of that. Yeah, scroll down. Just kind of showing these view corridors is pretty self-explanatory, but because the first half of that lot is left open, obviously due to topography, there's a lot of opportunity for the view corridors to be maintained, just like on the adjacent properties. The view corridor to the west side. I suppose it's fair to say also to the east. So those areas would probably go the other way also. So no concerns from staff there. We can just leave it there. In terms of site planning, is our third policy. This residence is located in the rear half of the lot, as I mentioned. It's within the codes setbacks and zoning setbacks, which are really not HBC review currently, but it's good to know that it is. That's like a 6-foot rear setback and 3-foot side setback. In terms of, this policy also talks about stepping down and reducing that massing. Now I'll get one more for you at page 45. This we'll get this section elevation, just scroll down a little bit later there. So this building, I think you definitely say that this building steps down as is encouraged by these standards. So if you start with the gable roof, the hip roof, and then as you get closer to the street, to the south, or to the alley to the north, your roof lines are stepping down. So it reduces that perceived massing from both the street and arguably from the alley as well. So if you were to compare that to a 30-foot, 35-foot tall building, which is the zoning maximum height, that goes all the way to the setback on both the front and rear, arguably that would have a much larger massing. Granted, this is not how the public is going to perceive the structure. So this is as perceived from the neighboring lot, and this is not this is an elevation drawing. This is not a perspective drawing. If this is coming across as a massive structure, that's just something to consider. But the main thing we're looking at here for this policy is that it's stepping down both to the alley and to the street. Also, the open air porch, while it is a roof structure, and it does step down, but it's, that's not an enclosed garage. It is open air on the lower and the upper level. So that does reduce the massing as compared to a solid, two-story or, one-story garage. It's kind of living space as well. So this is a consideration. So in terms of this policy, and this is actually just about site planning. Staff is finding that it complies with this policy in regards to stepping down and massing being reduced. Board policies regarding orientation. Just be really brief here. This building is oriented perpendicular to the front and rear lot lines and parallel to the side lot lines as is encouraged by the policy. And the primary entrance is oriented towards the street. So that checks all the boxes for that policy and complies. Policy 5 is regarding setbacks. You can stay there. And so there's, when we're talking about setbacks, there's zoning code setbacks, which is like your minimum distance from the property line. And then there's the traditional setbacks from the street that was created at historical context. As you already noticed, there's a lot of overlap with these policies. But we've already shown in the screen that previous image, the applicant's demonstrating that they're maintaining that alignment with those other structures along the streets. And then we looked at the Sanborn map earlier, and you can also see that the proposed structure is proposed in terms, it's starting at the rear of the lot, and even like I think like the bay window is in the same location as the other bay windows on that street. So staff is finding that it's maintaining that historical alignment. Those other homes on the Sanborn map. You'll also notice that they were either centrally located or the homes were just spanning the lot. They have setback limitations back in 1800s. So it's in terms of setbacks, staff finds for every reason this home is maintaining all those historically appropriate setbacks. Policy 6 is regarding parking. And you can't zoom in here on it.
I'm gonna move it. I mean, I was worried.
So in the rear, where is it trying to zoom in here? In the rear of the building, parking is proposed off of the alley. And when you're looking at the site plan, you'll notice that that portion of this porch, the covered porch in the rear, is proposed to cover up some parking spaces. So there's only about there's only a few feet, maybe 6 feet, which is actually uncovered driveways. Not a garage, proposed 2 parking spaces in the rear, off the alley, not visible from the street, and we have minimal driveway. So all those things check off the boxes for the 6th policy in the code. So no concerns there from staff. 7 policies regarding mass and scale. Up to 48 and what was moving into the household. So we're looking at this house as it will be primarily perceived from the street. A couple things to talk about here in terms of height, stepping down, and modules. So in terms of height, then you have to move over. Yeah, there we go. Zoom into the house. Okay, we did. All right, so in terms of height, this is a structure that has 3 levels. But as I've mentioned a couple times now, it steps down towards the street. And then there's also, and then because of the elevation difference between the street level and the house level, there's the 3rd level, basement level is, as the applicant is demonstrating here, is not visible from the street. And I think that's partially due to some of the landscape components that are shown there in the front yard. So as you perceive this from the street, I would say that primary facade is perceived as a 1.5-story facade with a 2-story component in the rear. And all of those are within within the design standards, this, if I'm quoting the standard here, it says maintain the traditional perceived scale of buildings. The tradition of 1- and 2-story street facades shall be continued. So I certainly think that the applicant is demonstrating that they are maintaining a two-story street facade. And that is assuming and considering that third level, that basement level is below grade. Second. So in terms of still within this policy, talking about stepping down. We've already talked about this a bit. One key thing to note is that there are the 3 nearest homes also have street facing gables. So this home is continuing that pattern that's will be consistent with the adjacent homes of having that street facing gable. So that's so on the left hand side, you can see that gable, and then again, as we've already talked about, you have a series of roof structures from the primary facade all the way back to the main hip that I guess step up or step down. Last point on this is that the length of the primary roof form, the hip roof, is reduced by the fact that it stepped down. So if the applicant were to not propose those secondary roof forms, they still would cover those spaces that would extend the primary ridge of the hip roof, which is discouraged by the standard. So it's implying that as well. All right, and then there's a key point in terms of modules. So if there's anything here that I want to fully vet with the commission, it's modules. So traditionally, as most of you are aware, Leadville's development pattern, the construction pattern is that a home was built and you had your primary facade. These are relatively small and simple structures. And then over time, those structures were added onto in the back. And so the tradition is a series of modules. And sometimes you have connector elements that kind of separate those modules, but most of the time, those modules were added on. Sometimes that can be perceived from the street, sometimes that can't. So with this structure, if it's possible that there are 2 modules here, I think that module, the first module would be, of course, the largest module. And then the second would be what is covered by that gable roof, which is maybe about 5 to 7 feet, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, basically between the biggest massive building and the front porch. So that's a question that I have for you tonight is, does this building kind of maintain that traditional development pattern of having multiple modules to break down that scale, like we used to see in Leadville? Or is this more like one big module? So I think that's a question that I have for the commission tonight. If, like I said, if there is a second module, it's that space that's covered by that primary forward-facing gable. All right, moving on. I'm halfway through building form. We just leave it right there. So this, as I've already mentioned, there's a lot of overlap here, but the structure is a combination of that primary rectangular mass. The standard talks a lot about rectangular massing. It's a combination of that mass and the hip roof, which is the secondary gable roof mass that steps down. There is some vertical orientation. If you look at like the front facade, you have these. You have the porch gable, and then you have the primary gable, and that does kind of create a vertical orientation. I certainly don't think this structure is horizontally oriented when you're looking at the primary facade. But in terms of building form, this is complying with all the standards regarding massing and rectangular massing. Policy 9 is roof forms. We need to go to page 42, it's the roof plan. So the primary roof forms, the hitch roof, which has an 812 pitch. That's really the minimum that's called out in the standard. That hitch roof is perpendicular to the street, which is recommended by the standard. And then all ridge lines are all ridge lines are parallel with the floor plans. So you don't have any modern contemporary like diagonal lines if you're looking at this, from the side. Basically, looking at the side elevation, everything is parallel. The secondary gables are at a 10-12 pitch, which is steeper. We should see the minimum recommendation, so that's good. So no concerns from staff in terms of the roof plan and roof forms. In terms of architectural character, the standard talks about Leadville is a collection of simple structures that have some orientation, but they're not overly ornamented. So, in terms of detailed ornamentation on this structure, we just came out just a little bit. Yeah, thanks. We really have three things to consider. And then we have the half round accent shingles, which are commonplace in historic structures in Leadville. You have the bracketry, which is proposed under the porch gable and the primary facade gable. And then you have the trim detail on the eaves. So this is certainly not a replica of a historic building, and I would not find that this is highly ornamented. It has some ornamentation. Then I think, as I mentioned before, that combination of the gabled roof, primary facade, and the blending into a hip roof is a unique combination that really makes the structure, allows the structure to be interpreted as a product of its own time. So that was, I think, the last question that I had tonight at the end of your report is if the commission finds this proposed structure is appropriately ornamented, and in fact, a product of its own time. Policy 11 is regarding building components. We can leave there. So if you're looking at this perspective, we have a rectangular bay window. As I mentioned, that's in the same location as the bay windows that were documented on the Sanborn maps on the three most adjacent structures, one to the east and two to the west. And the previously demolished historic structure had a bay window in approximately the same location on the building. The applicants, I think, included in your packet a photo of that building. The porch does identify the primary entrance as is recommended by the standard. And then the rear deck is, I would find that it's proportionate to the rest of the structure. I think it's about 15% of the overall building's length. So, it's definitely, what's the word, not secondary, but it's not a predominant form. The rear porch is not a predominant form. It's not predominantly dominating the length of the building. So the staff has no concerns in terms of building components. In terms of building materials, generally supportive of the proposed materials. Kind of broken them down in your staff report, but we can just look at this perspective. You have, starting from the bottom, we have stone wainscoting that comes up into what's proposed as a repurposed brick cladding. It's got a transition back band before you get to the siding. All of the materials from there up, like the siding, the shingles, or I guess the siding shingles, half round shingles, kind of staggered edge panels, which are on the bay window, the trim, the fascia, the soffit, are are all proposed as a composite material, fiber cement material. And that has a demonstrated durability in the high altitude climate. And all those materials are proposed. All the materials that are proposed are materials that, where their dimensions, their form and their dimensions were found historically. Just in terms of some comments for things to be addressed. We do have a few minor and additional exterior materials that need to be specified on the construction plans. Typically at this point in the design process, materials can easily be substituted. So these are obviously not final construction plans that would not be expected yet. I would like to get some feedback from the commission regarding the use of, I'm just scrolling down the words, you can see the brick and the stone. I would like to get some feedback from the commission on the proposed use of the brick and the stone. What they're proposing is, of course, starting with that stone cladding, but then kind of transitioning to using that repurposed brick as kind of like a transition band. And so while both of these materials are definitely used in the historic district and they are used in combination in the historic district, I think this particular application in this manner is unique. And so I have talked about that with the applicant. I think the applicant has come prepared tonight to talk about some alternatives. But I would like some feedback from the commission on the use of that material. We have standards that say the structure should be a product of its own time. So there's a certain argument for the way these materials are used being a product of their own time, just used in a different way than was used historically. However, there's also an argument for perhaps the stone should be the primary cladding, and then brick to be used as an accent in more like a vertical application, like on the steps or on porch columns. So I'd like to get some responses to that tonight. I've had some conditions of approval just for the material specifications as we get to the final construction plans for the building permit. So that's deck railings, roofing material and color. And then just having the colors match our 2016 historical color guide. I talked about that with the applicant. I don't think there's any concern there. All right, starting to wrap up here, getting some minor stuff. Windows. There are, let's see here. You just go to the side of the I don't have a page number, sorry. Just want to look at on the side of the buildings. So there are several types of windows proposed. The majority are vertically oriented, single hung, and then I think the majority of these windows are well spaced. So all that's great. I would say in terms of a solid void ratio that the applicant is proposing a healthy balance here between the amount of windows and the amount of solid space like siding. There's on the front facade, you'll notice there's a singular circular accent window, and the standards do allow one window like that on each elevation. So that is actually appropriate. So if we're trying to poke holes in this in terms of like non-vertically oriented windows, as you can see on what's on the screen, those are proposed on the south facade and in the lower basement level. And some of those actually on the other side, the other elevation, those are actually below grade. So a lot of these windows that are not vertically oriented, as you would find with historic structures, are definitely like secondary viewpoints or just completely out of sight. There are two skylights that are proposed on the deck, and skylights are not traditionally historically installed. The standards do allow for them, just in kind of like not in highly visible locations, and these are proposed on the deck, so they wouldn't be visible from the street level. So there's no concerns there. So I would recommend that this project complies with policy 13 regarding windows. Regarding doors, we just go to the front elevation to this. Regarding doors, there's a door that is proposed. I call it a two-third divided light. It's essentially the glass is approximately 2/3 is majority of the door. Well, not all the door, but majority of the door. And, it's my understanding that traditionally, historic doors, I think there are exceptions, but historic doors on residential structures and primary facade were half light, and not the majority of the door. So it's not something that I'm gonna fall on my sword about, but I would ask the commission if there was any concern about the proposed door. Policy 15 is regarding utilities. At this point in the design process, it's not typical for utility information to be specified on the plans. That usually comes with construction plan that you're submitting for your building permit application. So I just have a condition of approval that I'm recommending that the final plans, prior issuance of the building permit, have utility information specified, so that you don't have any kind of a large air conditioning unit on the front facade or anything like that. But wouldn't expect that, but just to cover that condition of approval. And then last policy regarding energy conservation. There's a balance to be had with energy conservation. It's not the primary focus of the HPC, but it's how high altitude climate, we certainly want to support energy conservation. So having windows, especially on the south and west facade, allow sun to come in, provide that passive solar gain. And so this structure certainly has an appropriate amount of windows on the fine to allow for that passive solar gain. But at the same time, not having all glass or having large expanses of glass that would not be appropriate. So I think they've checked that box, so no concern from staff on the last policy. So wrapping up, as I mentioned, I have some questions for the commission. Those are the last page of the staff report, which is page 33 of your packet. So a question regarding the massing number of modules, question for the commission regarding ornamentation, and last question just regarding the conditions of approval. I'll address a lot of these minor things with conditions of approval. So with that, I would say that that you now have an evaluation of all the code criteria, the design standards. And so, and as you heard me say, this is complying with most of the standards, so it's substantially in compliance. So my recommendation, staff recommendation, is to that the HPC recommend approval to the city council this project with the findings and conditions that are included in your packet. And then I also have a recommended motion. And that concludes my presentation. I can take any questions from the HPC.
And can we come back to your actual questions after we hear
Absolutely.
the presentations?
And this is not a requirement to answer those questions. This is really trying to guide the commission towards making a decision. Thanks.
Well, some of that might be addressed in the presentations, but does anybody at this point have a question for Chapin?
What, you've analyzed the plans pretty carefully. What would you consider the height of the top of the building to be? Is it below the 35 foot? Excellent.
I think it's. Yeah, so with the zoning code, which is really, the purview of staff, the planning and zoning commission, has 35 feet, and that's measured from, the average foundation height at grade to the midpoint of the eave and the gable. I'm sorry, even and the ridge. So let me pull up the elevation drawings and see if we can answer that.
It looks like the heights around and A4 is 0.0.
Yeah, we're going to go to.
They're a little hard to read.
There's looks like 37 or 38 is the largest number I see from the very bottom of the bottom floor, it looks like, to the top of the primary roof. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I would agree. So I think my interpretation of that elevation drawing is that they're demonstrating that they're meeting the maximum height requirement because. That, you know, that 34 feet and 9 inches is specified from the. Hip roof ridge down to the grade, but we're not actually, so that's less than 35 feet, but we're not actually measuring from. For zoning purposes, from the ridge, we're measuring from the halfway point, between the ridge and the eave. So in other words,
Is it
we
to the average grade or is it to the highest grade?
from the average grade, which, yeah, so we're less than 35 there, but and then when you get down, like where I was just mentioning, to the grade, it's measured for the average grade. And the measurement that they're providing is from the lowest point of the foundation, so if you can come up, that's even less, so. I would say this project is meeting height requirements in the zoning code.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Chapin? At this point, we'll have another chance. Okay. Then we have reached the time to get the applicant's presentation.
Wait till they get the presentation.
So this is.
And I will say, because I don't think I have anything about the height in my presentation, that we spent a lot of time reading, you know, the zoning rules for the average height, and because it's such a steep sloping lot, we actually had no option but to put the house at the back of the lot appropriately, because of the steep slope. It's based on the grade that exists right now. It doesn't matter how we changed it. If the height is measured from the survey that we had originally. So it was deeply considered as far as meeting the requirements.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. I am Kati Ross, my legal name is Jacqueline Ross, and myself and my husband, Chris Ricketts, own the currently vacant lot at 304 West 7th.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for having us back. I didn't expect when we first came here that it would be such a long time. The process of demoing the house took a long time and coming up with the plans. And I will say that this is our third complete house design. So we've done a lot of revisions over time. Throughout the design process, I had three things at top of mind. I wanted to create a home that is safe and comfortable for my parents to age in place with us. I wanted to build a house that's representative of the historic character and resourcefulness of the Leadville community. And I wanted to build a house that is a dream come true, mountain dream house for my husband and I. And this has been a very long process in coming up with this design. If you don't mind going to the next page. That's a different document.
Oh.
That's not it.
It's
If you click that, I'll go to the next document.
Yeah. you just want to
So-
say that.
Yeah. Okay. Is it possible to make that a tiny bit larger?
This computer doesn't have PDF.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
That one doesn't have.
Okay. All right, that's great, thank you. So I had submitted a house design when we went through the demo process, and we didn't vote on it at that time, which is probably a good thing. And I showed it to Chapin, I don't know when, earlier this year, and he really gave great feedback about how basically that house was going to tower and loom over the street because of the steep grade. It was not going to be, it wouldn't look good, basically. If you're walking down the street, you would have just seen a giant tower. So we did a complete redesign to step down the scale and to bring the house partially underground so that we could just give it a better way to slot into the neighborhood. We also considered neighboring houses and views a lot more in this design. And the way that the porch comes out creates a through line view for the neighbors from both sides. So that we're not coming out, you know, even with them in the same way, we're giving them more options for being able to see sort of through our porch, which I thought was very helpful. We worked with the height allowances on the super steep sloping lot. And we did save old interior and exterior doors, and there's a lot of bricks on the property that I think there was no structure there. It's kind of hard to tell what the bricks are for, but there are a lot of them, and we want to use those as part of the exterior decoration from the house. And there were some old Christmas decorations in the house, in boxes, and we would save those too. And then we added some contemporary elements that were meant to make the house appear of its own time. And I think for me, one of the main elements is making that accent window a little larger than it would have been traditionally. I think the round accent window on the front really makes it look a little more contemporary while still fitting in with the traditional appearance. Let's see, okay. And another thing I want to say that has been integral to our design and building process is using recycled and scrounged material throughout the build. Not just things that we're finding on the lot or that we found in the old house, but just sort of our whole ethos in doing the project is Craigslist scrounging. And I've found the bathroom tile that we're gonna use, the bathtub, the flooring. I just kind of speaking of it being more of an environmentally friendly process, we are trying to use a lot of recycled materials. If you could go to the next, the page after this one, please. Okay, thank you. So, like I said, we wanted this home to slot right in with the bungalows that are on either side. We didn't want it to just suddenly, you know, stick out of nowhere as your eye scans the street. And something that, you know, Chapin was talking about that was important to me is I did want the appearance of multiple additions over time. I feel like that's like such a Leadville look. And so putting the facade on the front with the peaked gable roof and then having the rest of the house behind it, I felt like it gave that impression of an addition, which I thought was important to making it have a Leadville feel. And it does say cultured stone on the bottom of there, but of our elevations, but that's mislabeled by our home designer. It's actually a moss rock that is it's not cultured. real, I don't know if the right word is, real rock. And then on the front, when we were here last time, when I did the meeting with you guys where you just kind of gave me some input and direction on which way to go. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, I think Whitman?
Steve Whittington.
Whittington. You had mentioned that it would make more sense to have the front porch extend all the way to the end, the covered part of the porch. And so we added that as a part of the changes that we made. And then can you go to the next one, please? And the rear is very simple. There's nothing very exciting back there. It's a simple design, and it steps down, so that it's not just one big block. Next, please. And again, I'm just inspired by the houses with multiple additions. I just kind of wanted it to have, some interesting roof lines and have that feel without being a copy of anything. And let's see. And then it's really hard to see on here, but if you, maybe in your packets, you can see it. There is the current grade next to the house and then our proposed grade. It's not very much difference. It's like maybe a foot difference, but it does allow more light into the windows and it creates sort of a wider window well. We wouldn't grade on the property line. We would come in like 1.5 to 2 feet and create sort of a wider window well so that there's more light coming in.
I have a question.
Yes,
The rear deck.
yes,
Is approximately 10 feet deep, is that what you're saying?
correct.
With your 6 foot setback,
Yes,
so you have 16 feet to park a car in, that seems kind of short.
so it would, except for that, our 6 foot setback and our marker of where our property line actually comes in quite a bit off the alley. Because all of the houses near us are built into the alley. And so that's actually further from the alley than it seems.
You know how much further?
No, I can't remember. I did measure it at one point, and I don't have that for you off the top of my head. But I know that I believe I needed 18 feet for a turning radius, according to things I read about turning into a garage. When I just worked on this design, it met that turning radius.
Okay.
So I hope that answered. And then if we could go to the next one, please. Okay, and then here, really just the same thing. We're hoping to move the grade a little bit to create access to a side door. But one thing to notice is that, sort of dark line that the steps come down to, that's the front grade. So there'll be steps coming down to the side door. You won't see anything that there is a side door there from the street because it's below grade level. So it's really like in a well, if that makes sense. All right, next, please. And the next one after that. Yeah. Okay, so one thing I would want to say is that our renderings are done by a really nice man who is in Nigeria, and he can't fully get some of the things that I'm trying to say about the surroundings and the landscaping, because he just doesn't have the context for it. So like the buildings that are next to our renderings, I gave up after a while and just focused on the house. So if you see any strange things as far as the landscaping, that is because of that. So what we really wanted for the front is for the basement to be hidden from street view, just like the cellar was on the old house. That's been important to me from the very start of designing this house, is to really take into account what the old house had and bring it forward. And then I really love the combination of the peaked gable facade on the front and then the hip roof on the second floor, just receding from view. So you really feel like you're looking almost at a single story bungalow, even though it's not. And then let's wait, hold on, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yes, and just again, we changed that front view so much so that it's not looming over the street. And then those hidden skylights are underneath the bay window there. That's where those skylights will be, and they won't be visible, but they will provide a lot of light. All right, next.
So the
please.
skylights are
Oh, I'm sorry.
in the deck.
The deck is actually, so the left side of the deck isn't really a deck, it's faux. We'll put the railing there and it'll look like it is from the street, but it's actually a pitched rubber membrane roof. And then the front porch, you know, we'll put a rail so no one goes and walks on our roof, but the front porch is from that left pillar over to the right there. Okay, next, please. And again, parking under the rear deck, a gravel drive, not grass, from the alley, and then the utilities. And as far as I know, almost all of the HVAC would be in the rear, but we plan to do heat pump, heat systems. And I believe the designer was hoping to put some of those right on the side, in the rear, side rear, but that's not fully planned yet. And obviously we would submit that. Okay, next, please, and next. Thank you. Historic colors, actually I like most of the colors on the historic design sheet better than the ones that I had found, especially getting rid of cut the mustard and replacing it with Millington Gold, because that was not a good name and not a good color, so. That, I think it looks better. I haven't quite figured out the the elderberry replacement color yet, but it would be one of those three, whichever one like kind of popped out and looked the best for the trim accents. All right, next, please.
That's quite a question.
Yeah.
How many colors are those in total?
It's 5. It's just pretty much exactly how that house is kind of the idea. But the red color is just like, it's a little tiny accent around the trim. It's not one of the predominant colors.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not all 3 of those reds, it's just whichever red works best, I think.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, yeah, just on the railings, Chapin had called out in his report, you know, what will they be? And the plan is just for simple wood railings, nothing too exciting. And the front door, and part of my Craigslist scrounging, we already bought this door, so I really hope that you find it acceptable for us to use this door with some small side lights, windows on the side. And we just really, really love that door. That's.
He's actually smiling.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and then on the hardscaping, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, and the way that I photoshopped those retaining walls in, that's the location of the remnants of the retaining wall right now. And I can just say over time, you can just see where the retaining wall just sort of slid down the hill, and the whole lot is actually kind of sloping as it slid down into the neighbor's yard. So the goal would be to sort of rebuild those 3 levels and kind of bring some shape back to the lot. And a new sidewalk at street level. And then we are in discussions and working with our next door neighbor, well, the owner of the house next door, Carl, because once the survey came back, we realized that his stairs are actually on our lot, like half of his stairs. And so what we would like to do and have proposed to him, and I think we have agreed to is a shared stairway that is double wide on our property line that we can both use. Right. Oh, and one thing that isn't on there that would probably happen in the future is a picket fence on one of the roads. Probably at where the stairs come, a little gate and a picket fence, because we have dogs, so I would like to keep them in the yard. Let's see. Okay. And then that's, you know, very grand and not not as grand as our side yard would be. Because we'd only have like 3.5, 4 feet to work in, but the idea is to drop into it and then come back out of it. And hardscape it, similar to this, not as grand as that. Okay. And I already spoke about the front door and the porch and deck railings. So the discussion was about the stone brick combo on the bottom of the house. And yeah, let's go to the next slide and then I'll start there. So first I looked at where in Leadville do you have stone and brick combos that I could show that it does exist here. And that's the first one, the church at the corner of 8th and Harrison. And then the next one is the Heritage Museum. And I realize that both of these are institutions and not residential homes. But I would say if I could build a house like exactly as I wanted, I would do a Carnegie Library duplicate. So I am inspired by this. And next, please. So my argument for the brick ban is that the moss rock, it's not cultured stone, it will look very similar to the retaining walls. And what I think it will do is even scale the house down more, because as you're scanning up, and especially as you're coming up our levels, it will just be sort of the next level. And I think it'll even make the house smaller, like trick the eye a little bit. I also like the combination of the brick band. Well, the bricks are on the property and I love the bricks and I'm gonna use them somehow, but I like the brick band because I think it adds something that is a little contemporary to a house that we styled pretty traditionally, and to make it seem of its own place and time. I feel like the elements that have done that are the larger circle window and then having the brick band against the stone. But that is, you know, that's my opinion. It might not be to everyone's taste, but that's where I'm coming from with that part of the design. Do you mind going to the next one? Now, please don't laugh at my Photoshop skills because I am terrible at Photoshop. But another option would be to do brick on just the front facade of the first floor there and stone completely on the bottom. There's not enough brick to do more than that. Like we would really just be able to do that. And I might have to source some additional bricks if it wasn't enough, but I think we're close on having enough to do that. So that's one option. It's not my favorite, but I also don't hate it. And then the next one is possibly just a small brick band, like 1 brick wide, just to show the accent, and then I'd use the rest of the brick on the interior walls in the basement living space. So, and I think that's the end of my presentation. And I just want to thank you again for letting me go through this and share the project with you, and I will take questions.
Okay, we won't do questions now because
Okay.
we are later in the,
Okay,
we have to listen to the pro and cons first
Okay.
if there are any.
got it.
But we will get back to you and you'll have a chance to answer if anybody has any questions from the
Great.
audience.
Thank you.
And that's what we have next, public comment. Well, it's the staff highlights. We did that already, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've
yeah.
already got that.
I
Okay,
think we just need to.
we have to switch this. Public comments. Do we have that sign-in sheet? And we first are going to ask for people who want to comment in favor. It doesn't tell whether these are in favor or not. Okay,
And can you open the public portion, public comment portion of the meeting, because we need to open that part and then close it again.
we have to open this again. Okay,
Just
we'll
the
open
public
the public
portion.
comment portion of
Yes,
the
thank you.
hearing. Just, do we have to vote on that?
No.
Okay.
I'll put down a timer.
Okay, so who would like to speak in favor? Anybody? Hmm?
I have a question.
Would you mind?
Stand up here and could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Erin Duggan. I live at 301 West 7th with my husband and 2 kids. We've been at that residence for about 10 years. First of all, I would like to say I'm happy to see this new design. I had some concerns with the old proposals and I'm feeling better. My big concern at this time is actually watershed, and it's not something that I've heard anybody mention before. I don't know if that's something this commission can consider, but I think that maybe some of us can attest to the most recent rainfall that we had and how that affected all of us. This lot is sloped steeply onto 7th Street, and the culvert that's there, sort of at the bottom of where the two drainages combine, gets really, really overwhelmed. The water all comes down from the east side, up from Harrison, and it just completely washes over the road. I mean, it was like a river this last time. The thing that I would like to be considered is this lot, the structure seems slightly larger than the previous structure that was there. And then also any paving that takes place, like, you know, you're covering the soft ground that would otherwise absorb it. And so I don't think that it's something that can't be mitigated, but I would love for it to be something that could be considered for us downhill folks and, you know, any kind of problems that might cause. And that's really what I would like to be considered.
I can respond to that from a staff perspective, if that's okay with the commission.
Mhm.
Okay, so the drainage considerations are really outside of the commission, the Historic Preservation Commission doesn't have any criteria for that, but we do have zoning criteria for that. Single family development is a by right use, so it has to go through HPC development, it's review if it's in the historic district, but then it goes through site plan reviews, it's administrative because it's by right, so we go through me, I check for all the zoning criteria, and then it goes to the building department for a construction plan review. So I would be checking for that. There are, we essentially have two criteria in our code that do address drainage, so I'd be happy to, I can give you my contact information, I can go over that with you maybe, exactly what that criteria is.
Great.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else who wants to speak in favor of the application, Stephanie?
Stephanie Jewell, I live at 303 West 8th. I've been here since '89. This proposal is so much better than the others that I saw, so kudos. This is kind of along the same line. I don't see how you're gonna address the snow issue. It seems pretty, you know, you've got 3 times the amount of square footage compared to the old site. And just kind of wondering, where is the snow going now? Because I live directly behind that and Spruce Street dead ends, it's a cluster there. Dan Jensen lives on the other side of Spruce right next to me. He's got a business. You know, he can't really access his garage. Dick, 2 doors, well, yeah, 2 doors from the proposed new home. He has, I think it's HOP haul away his snow from the back and then dumps it there at the corner. And it's pressing against Dan's garage. So, you know, if you've got a driveway and covered porches, you know, you don't have that much space between on the property line. I'm just wondering where all that snow is gonna go. It's already an issue. And I understood based on the last meeting that the height would be similar to the old home. Is that wrong? Seems it's gonna be 2-story, which is double what's there compared to a 1-story.
There's no restriction
Okay,
on
okay.
building height as long as
Okay.
it matches building code.
Yeah, okay, I just didn't, I thought part of that would be buried. In the design, and then you've got windows at the very bottom of the home. You know, you get 3 feet of snow right next to those windows, that's not gonna work. Just wanted to point that out, okay, but. I think that's all I really have,
Can I?
so, yeah,
Square footage is larger, the lot coverage is very similar to the previous code. So as far as snow shed, yes, the building is larger, has more volume, it's not covering any more of the lot. Well, it's not covering a substantially larger portion of the lot than the old structure was.
oh,
So
this.
snow mitigation issues would be very similar to what you had with the previous house.
Oh, okay,
There's not a great change in that.
okay, sounds good,
Can I respond just, regarding zoning code criteria? That are, okay, so we actually have even less in the code regarding, snow storage specifically. We do have, so single family development, it doesn't have snow storage requirements per se. There are parking lot requirements, you have a certain size parking lot, then you have snow storage requirements for that parking lot. We do have, there are zoning, again, it's outside of HPC review, but there are zoning requirements for site plan review that do in like a secondary manner address snow storage, as Commissioner Edwards just mentioned, we have a minimum lot coverage requirement for the zoning code, which does address that in some way. We also have setback requirements. Part of the reasons, there's many reasons for setbacks, part of that is so that your roof is not shedding snow onto a neighbor's property. So we do have limitations, dimensional requirements in the zoning code to address that in a secondary manner, but not specifically for snow storage, for single family development.
right, with this new proposal, with it, you know, right at the back of the alley. I can't imagine that they're gonna put the snow in the front of their house. So, you know.
Sure, well, most of that snow on that, with that house design, the vast majority of the snow shed would be to each
Sure,
side.
but you still have dry.
But you do still have, yeah, you're right, it's a
And then
consideration,
there's the porch, yeah,
you're correct.
so just wondering. It's already an issue, so I just wanted you guys to know that. Also, I understand they'll probably, I don't know where they're gonna stage all these materials to do this, but, you know, I'm sure they're gonna close the alley, but again, if you go to the back corner of my lot and, you know, Dan's entranceway, and it's not just to get a car in, it's equipment, he has a business, you know, so I just wanna make sure that, you know, we're not gonna get a load of wood and then no access, because it's very, very tight.
One other, and again, it's not required at this stage of the design process, but one of the requirements for the building permit application for the city level sign off is we have to receive a construction management plan. And it's the first set in the construction set, and it essentially is basically the site plan with property lines and you draw on top of the site plan showing the proposed structure, and then basically a bunch of red lines that shows where's the construction parking, material storage, dumpster, portalet, any erosion control, construction fencing, where are all those things located? So in the alley, you know, they have the right to temporarily block that if they go through certain procedures and get streets department approval and all those things. But generally speaking, during the construction process, the applicant must adhere to the construction management plan.
And so you're aware, blocking the alley on a temporary basis.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
During the
that,
day,
it's
it's
just
not a
the
long-term
part, you know, Dan wasn't able to come here today, so he wanted to mention that he had to have access, and, you know, again, it's so tight. You know, if he's got a trailer and he has to get to the garage with the trailer, and there's wood right there, you know, he just wouldn't be able to do it, so just want you guys to be aware before we start it off.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak for or against, or just has something else to say?
Hi, I'm Deborah Delaney, and we live at 215 West Seventh. So I just wanted to say, I think it's beautiful. I'm super excited. You put a lot of work into it, and we were nervous. And I feel really comfortable, so thank you. Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate your comment.
Okay, anybody else from the public? Any comments? Because now if the applicant wants to rebut anything or have anything to say based on what the public had to say,
I think I'm okay.
you're okay?
Yeah.
Okay, then we finally get to the commission.
Well, let's close the public portion. Can you close the public comment portion of it, please?
Okay, but that's wrong on here.
I'm sorry.
However, I will entertain a motion to close the public portion of this meeting.
I move that we close the public input portion of the meeting.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, aye. All right, it is time for the HPC questions.
You have the right to ask questions of staff.
Okay, on the one of the long facades, I think I've heard it described as the south, but I'm not sure it is. But anyway, there are a couple of what look like horizontal windows that are above the foundation. And I'm just kind of curious why those are there, because they seem sort of jarring compared to all the other windows on both sides.
On which side, I'm sorry?
I think the left elevation, are these the ones you're talking about, Steve?
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
double.
Do you mind if I look?
Are those two hung?
Oh, those are in the future. As zoning changes allow, if we put a kitchen there, that would be where kitchen cabinets, like countertop would be. So those are like over, you know, the kitchen windows. That makes sense.
Mhm. And I just find them a little, they're kind of different than everything else except what's below grade, so. Just a comment.
Steve, they won't be visible from the street. They won't be visible from the front facade. Those windows on either side, actually. On the other side of the house, they're at the back of the house, for the basement. But none of that would be visible from the street.
That's true. Okay.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. Are you considering are you gonna repurpose that found brick you're thinking for facade? Most of the brick that we have up here, especially if it's been on the ground for any length of time, is not suitable for building, so you should definitely have somebody take a look at that and evaluate it before you prepay money for it.
Okay.
That's very rare to find brick up here that you can reuse. It was soft fire brick originally.
Okay.
Just something to think about.
What are we buying these on the interior?
Yeah, for decorative purposes, no problem at all. You just really don't want it on your facade. It won't handle the elements anymore.
Okay.
It's why so many of the buildings on Harrison Avenue are being refaced and the bricks being turned around, is because it's pretty soft brick to start with. And that's almost across the board here in Leadville. Lots of old brick, very little of it is useful for anything other than sidewalks.
I have no offense.
Sorry.
Chapin, did you want us to address some of the questions that you had when you gave your presentation, or?
Well, I'll say this, if any of the commissioners are kind of struggling with any of the things that are, these questions are about, then yes, I would recommend that the commission go through the process of answering that. If you have no concerns with anything proposed, then it might be less, the questions are intended to kind of help to guide the commission into working through some of those things.
The front door question. The original doors were smaller lights for weather and for the size of the plate. But your taller window really complements those side windows on the facade. I think it looks great.
Do you guys have any questions in regards to the questions that Chapin was asking you, meaning you have all the information you need to make those decisions?
Yeah, does
If you have
anybody
any
want to bring
questions-
up any comments on Chapin's questions? As far as concerns, I guess, if you love them, fine. What they're doing,
Yeah.
Going, put my notes here.
I think it would be useful for us to just discuss among ourselves each one.
Okay,
So, because I would say that to the extent that I have any concerns about this design, which in general, I think Chapin is right, it complies and looks nice. Is just with the, the massing and height, and in part, I think that's probably a function of just the slope and the grade, and anything on there is gonna end up looking kind of big in certain parts. But I wondered what other people thought about just the massing and the module and the height question. In terms of within the context of.
They're fully within their rights on the height of the building, but the way they've done the roof and the way they've broken up the front facade really mitigates that height.
Yeah, I do like the picture. The picture showing the after view from the street is very helpful. So thank you for including that.
Yeah, I think that's a very considerate, it would be unusual to have add-ons on the front of the houses up here, but this would. To use your imagination, you start with that small front eave,
Mhm.
and then they add it onto the back of the house, which is how this looks from the street. So it does very much work with
Like,
the other houses on both sides of Harris Avenue.
I like the comparison of the before and after pictures, because I think that really shows that this, it doesn't look very much higher
mhm.
than what was there before.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have to remember, you're looking at it from 20 feet down, but it does mitigate that initial view.
The mass on this, the mass in front to back on the side seems big. I mean, that's the center portion of the house, the main living area really seems big to me. But people from the street aren't going to see that.
yeah, because it'll be sort of way back and hidden from view.
Well, the neighbors will see it.
Yeah. Then the views, it sounds as if their views will be preserved by the sighting of the house and the porches. Right. You have any thoughts, Nick?
And the fact that they kept it set back, like it's traditional.
Yeah.
Not compromising.
Yeah, the step up, I think they've done a really nice job comparing this before to after. That looks really good, and I like the circle that they put on the front there. In that window, and I don't mind the 2/3 height on the front door either.
The question number one, basically about massing and number of modules. So what I'm hearing is it good for to keep going, but I think I'm hearing is the majority of the commission is okay with massing modules.
Yeah.
Because of the way they've done the step back.
Step
so you can
back,
see
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and, yeah, I think that's what they're saying.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take some notes here, so we can come back to this if needed, but
Yeah.
it sounds like the majority of the commission is answering question one is yes, you support massing modules.
And then and question two is ornamentation. You started to talk about that some, Nick, with the window, that circular window, and then I think what do we call that sort of
Shake.
shake. you know, a bunch of places have that on that front, sort of under the gable facade. So that seems appropriate to me.
If you consider the bricks ornamentation, to be ornamentation, then I think they work a lot better. It's a horizontal strip around above the stone than having them as a front facade of the building.
That's good. Yeah, I agree with that, and I kind of like the way it is now, if the bricks are suitable for use, is the way we're pointing out.
That's it, you can't use brick, you might just wanna not use those.
Yeah, I do like the idea of the older bricks there if they're usable, but yeah, with the stone sort of foundation there, I do think it'll basically look like a fourth, and then you might not even be able to see that at all from the street, so it'll just be potentially like from the street of that brick and then the house above it. And to one of Chapin's points, I do think then, to the extent that it is different from what you might find traditionally, it does help do that sort of distinguishing thing.
Of its own time.
Yeah, of its own time.
That will visually tie in with the different levels of that front yard, so you're right, it'll do what you're talking about doing.
Well, I like the stone used on the, you know, at the bottom here. I really like that. You have at the Herald Building, that old stone. And it just seems pretty red though.
Mhm.
Oh, and the brick combination. Yeah, we have that too. So I like that. I don't think it's, this whole thing is overly fancy. I think it's appropriately fancy.
These comments are considering if you look at the very top, the bracketry,
Mhm,
the trim detail,
right, Everything.
The different siding details. Right.
mhm,
Yeah,
I think.
Does anybody disagree or have any other thoughts on that second question?
Okay. Thank you. So the last question is regarding conditions of approval. Those are found starting at page, from your packets number 9 or digital version, but 34. Okay. Is it 34? And we're gonna pull that up. So we just have some standard findings. These are just basically the first 3 are basically just code requirements. Or through the project, you can find that the first 3 are true, and then the conditions of approval. The ones that are not bolded are standard, so starting with condition number 5. Those are the unique conditions of approval, so it's basically prior issuance of a building permit, its condition is 5A through 5E. This is regarding materials, colors, utility information. And so we should talk about this. I have 5E as the final plan shall only specify stone as the primary foundation cladding material, with brick used as an accent cladding in specific locations. So I may have gone down a little bit of the path there, so we can correct that with the motion if you can give me. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you're not comfortable with the condition of approval 5E, when you make a motion for recommendation for approval, you can strike 5E or you can revise it.
You had a problem with the door too, though, and that's not here as a condition of getting the building permit. How does that fit into all this?
That's a valid point.
You mean the glass?
The glass, yeah.
I
Just one second. Let's see here. I just want to look at, I'm gonna pull up speech 31 packet. It's the exact language of this policy regarding doors. So make sure this is, there's code criteria for this. All right, so it says, well-defined front entrance, openings in a similar location, size and type to those seen traditionally. And this is a grade level, et cetera. Garage door being minimized, there's no garage door here. Material and detailing, garage doors, there's no garage doors here. Doors to be finished designed and finished with trim elements similar to those used traditionally. So there's not any specific information regarding glazing in the door. There's not an example listed. It's very general criteria regarding doors. So I think that was the reason why I didn't put it in a condition.
Does any of the rest of the commission feel that that's out of character, the level of the door that they were proposing? I mean,
Well,
Not
the
traditional.
guidelines say we're not supposed to be exactly reproducing historic
Exactly.
structures, so if this is a little bit different, I don't think it matters really, as long as it looks good.
do you guys feel it looks good?
Compliments to
Yeah, just
myself.
to go with that thought process, there, sorry. Okay, does
So,
everybody agree that that would be okay? To
Yeah.
have that much glass on the door, because I think it looks really nice, especially given the windows, it doesn't look overly glassy, if you will, because of the windows, but that, again, just.
is everybody okay with what I said? Yeah.
Mhm.
So then it doesn't need to be under 5 at all, yeah, it's I guess.
Yeah, and then I'll just clarify, so this is crystal clear, 5E, right now I have it says the final plan shall only specify stone as a primary foundation cladding material, which it is proposed right now as the primary material. With brick used as an accent cladding in specific locations, and right now it is an accent, so. Guess what I'm saying is that condition could stay, I would, as I have it written, I think the applicant's proposal, if the commission is okay with it, would meet that condition.
Yeah, and then
Right.
if they can't use the brick, then it's still fine with.
Yeah.
it's what we've approved.
But it can't be used as that.
Yeah, leaving
Yeah.
it vague, because or if they found that they could use some of the bricks, but not as many as they thought, then they could reduce the size of it without any kind of problem.
Well, the other discussion, it sounds like you're ready for a motion.
Yes, I'm like we're ready for a motion. Did you want to change the motion or
I think we can leave it like.
are we okay now?
I think it's fine the way it is.
Is there someone who would like to make this motion?
I haven't read one for a while.
One of the motions.
I move the Historic Preservation Commission recommend to the city council that the city council approve the Ross Ricketts single-family dwelling in Willville residential PL 2023-008 located at 304 West 7th Street, along with the attached findings and conditions.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we want to have we should probably vote by roll call.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Whittington,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillman,
Yes.
Commissioner Linson,
Yeah,
Commissioner Edwards,
Yes.
Chair Martin,
Yes.
approved for recommending city council.
Okay, well,
Thank you, Commissioner.
there you go.
Thank you. Constance.
Good luck with the council.
Thank you to the members of the public.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate all the comments very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for coming. Nice to
Bye.
feel appreciated.
All right.
You guys are all great.
Yay. That's worth staying here. Okay,
That wasn't contentious, it's like, well,
no. I think it'll be a nice addition to the neighborhood, very. I think we're agree there. Okay. I thought we just did that.
We did the public.
Okay, so can we close the public?
Do we need a motion?
I guess so, yes. I have a motion.
I move to close the public hearing? Yes. Hearing, portion of the meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Edward second.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have to go over this now. It's been a while. Okay, C, under new business, state historical fund, other grant options.
Let's see, I submitted a letter of intent. I don't know if you did too, but, okay, I submitted a letter of intent for the Straits Historical.
I've done that previously, when
Okay.
we were gonna do the.
The-
Leland, so,
yeah. I did it again. I wasn't sure whether we needed to, but then I haven't heard back. I put in your email as a contact,
Okay.
so I'm not sure whether you've heard
I haven't
anything.
heard anything yet.
Yeah. We might want to follow up, because I think they're supposed to reply within a
Yeah,
week.
they are.
Yeah. But
When did you send it, do you know?
August 1st,
We should have got them.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's our only progress sadly on grants. I didn't get any work done on the other ones. So that'll be for next time. But I might be sending you a couple of emails if we need to set up accounts for those.
Absolutely, okay. And I will follow up on that, letter of intent,
Okay, great.
because last time I had to call and they lost a bunch of letter of intents, and then they went
Yeah.
back and they found them somehow, so
Yeah,
it's kind
my-
of weird, so.
Suspicion would be that something similar happened again.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else or something else on the agenda? I guess this is wrong at the next meeting saying infill certificate of appropriateness. Is that just left over?
Well, I would also like to know what August 2/28 is. I mean, it's not, good. We should-
I just have one question, just looking for some feedback. So that was our first infill residential for a new single family, my first one with y'all. And the applicant wanted to come for a work session before to get some just initial feedback, which was great. So that, I think that kind of like streamlined this process. But my goal was to, if everything went well tonight, in terms of the staff report and what we covered, those sort of things, then we kind of a template that the commission is comfortable with, and I'm comfortable with, that we can use going forward. But I would welcome any feedback either now or just individually offline, email or whatever. If there's anything there, like, hey, your report was too long, or I'd like to see more of this or something like that. So just putting that out there, welcome feedback. So when we start getting more of these, we just kind of have a format that the HPC is comfortable with. So now we're offline, whatever we do that.
You going through your 16 points before the public presentation was huge because it answered a lot of questions
Okay.
that people would have had otherwise. So I think it actually made the meeting go much faster.
So you're not hearing the same thing twice.
Mhm.
And I think on that, process,
Because you're able
and
to give
everything,
your,
we should switch that.
Mhm.
because you're able to
To
give
let
your
him-
opinion or your interpretation while you're giving your presentation.
Yeah.
It saves everybody a lot of time and it makes everything much more concise. I
Okay.
think that was a great format.
Well, and that's how we do it at P and Z and city council. So okay, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
that
I'll switch
worked
those.
really well, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the packet with all the guidelines laid out, and then your.
Yeah, that was really
interpretation
helpful.
For us to be able to review
Mhm.
beforehand was awesome.
And it's educational to us too, because we haven't had, have we had another one of these? I don't think we've
I
had
don't think of
it.
Enfield, I'm trying to think of one
We
on
did
nine
last
thirty,
year, but it was
the
before change.
container home.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the
Was our
container.
Enfield, that's our first,
Mm.
and that was not fun or pretty,
Yeah.
or,
Hey, they broke ground on that now.
Mhm.
It's under construction.
they've gone
They
and
are.
installed utilities into.
Yeah, but it's nice that you pull out all the guidelines, because I remember that one, then sort of going to the residential info guidelines and then sort of thinking about it.
That was really hard for us it
Yeah.
wasn't streamlined at all. This is now just a little boom, 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 and it helped us because we were unsure how to
Yeah.
apply those guidelines to what we were doing. So I found it very helpful. I found it
And
put our last COA and built to shame. So it made me feel very inadequate, but that's okay, because
being very thorough on all of yours also changes the public input. It really calms public input down because they know we've already considered most of this, or that you've considered it. So
Mhm.
that's super helpful from that standpoint, especially when you have a larger public presence.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
Fixed a lot of
really well.
potential problems.
Okay, all right, I'm glad to hear that. I think that was a good exercise for us to go through, and I think that gives the commission and staff some confidence that, yeah, we can do this, we got this. So, yeah, but just that invitation's open, if everything ever comes up and say like to, revise this format or whatever, I welcome that. Thanks for the feedback.
Okay,
If we had 3 of these in one night, though, we're gonna have to order pizza.
I agree with that.
We'll try not to do that to you.
I think we have money.
If we have 3 of these in one night, we actually have 3 in one night, I'll buy pizza.
Okay, is that? Good, good, good. No, that was very helpful. Does anybody have anything else? I have one thing I just wanted to tell you that I got a notice from Sarah Day. They are seeking more money from the State Historic Fund. And she said, could we use the letter that you wrote last time we were, and I said, yes. I didn't want to say, get in touch with all of you and say, in 5 days, let me know if we can reuse this letter. I thought for the Tabor Opera House, I figured we're pretty much in favor of continuing with that.
Yeah.
I have
So,
one more update, if that's all right.
sure.
Mark and I conducted a pre-application meeting, was it last week or the week before? In the past 2 weeks, regarding the beehive,
Didn't we discuss
Oh.
that? Steve?
but we held that. And feel free to add anything you want. I'm just going to say, that was a difficult pre-application meeting, to say the least. And I recorded that in case I needed to use that recording. It was, yeah, frankly, that they are very rude. Not the property owner, the
Contractor?
the agent, yeah, for the pre-application. So, we will, to the best we can, we will establish, we have boundaries that can't be crossed in terms of just, having respectful conversations, and, I'll just stop there, but I just putting you on notice that we, and now we'll have 2 minutes to say anything advisory. Yeah. Yeah. So I will say, I think that in my experience, that is, it's highly atypical to have a pre-application meeting like that, so I don't think that would be something we usually encounter. But I do want to thank Mark for, for being there, and he actually voluntarily went over, they asked me to come over to the site right away, and he did, and look at the building. So it is, I just want to say that it is very helpful having an advisory, with members, advisory members, because it's not just me, and when someone shows up with multiple people, and they dominate the conversation, I can, I can steer the conversation toward the guidelines, and, use the guidelines and say, this is where the answer. This is where, the answers that you're looking for are coming from. It's not me, it's not the advisory member, it's not the HBC. There are rules that you have to meet, so that's where it's coming from. It's just not arbitrary. But then at the end of the day, it is just helpful having someone else there in that pre-application meeting, and that is the primary purpose. There are other functions of the advisory members, but that's the primary purpose. So I just want to say that that was a difficult meeting, but it proved why we should have an advisory commission, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Do we have any idea when we might hear, that might come to us?
No idea. I mean, I think it was actually good that they requested that meeting. They provided some preliminary plans. That's probably all I'm gonna say about that. But we don't have a date or anything.
Are you going to meet again?
At this point, we don't have a request for a meeting. We don't, so they haven't contacted us about that. I think at this point they are reviewing the rules. I think we're highlighting everything with why, and I think they're just reviewing that. I hope they're reviewing that.
Are you in communication with the building owner at all, or only with the representative?
No, just with the representative.
It's unfortunate that we can't get that information to the building owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we do with the stuff.
Yeah.
It would seem that if there was an issue between the city and the representative, that the building owner should have some way to find out about that.
Yeah, I'd have to be careful about how that was communicated.
Of course.
Yeah,
But it's just a shame, if it doesn't happen, I would consider that to be a bigger issue. Yeah. But yes, obviously, we'd have to be careful about how we communicate.
Is there a pickleball season?
I don't even know what it is.
It's year round.
Google it.
Year round?
Especially in warmer climates.
Yeah, in Texas.
Yeah, I guess they're not waiting for winter.
He did say.
Okay, well, that's interesting to know and not too surprising.
I do have, obviously on my agenda, that's all wrong. At our next meeting, which is August 22nd, I have it right here, we will be having a section 106 review. Chapin, if you wanted to say, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but we will have one of those, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's not like an active application, so I can just give you a quick.
Yeah, that's true.
Preview, there's an existing tower and existing enclosure for a wireless facility at the search and rescue site, property owned by the city, leased to the county. Long story short, they are seeking forgiveness, not approval, so that's already been constructed, but there's not actually the satellite or like the dish equipment, all those things, it's not actually connected. Last week I received a request for comments for a section 106 review from the FCC, and then also from the like basically the consulting firm who is managing the section 106 review on behalf of the county. And so I called the county about it. I talked to them. Essentially, they're saying that, yeah, we did this, we installed it before we were supposed to have, and so now we're just asking for forgiveness and asking for approval. This is a site that is outside of the historic district. So this is east side,
Top of 11th Street.
top of 10th and 11th Street, basically kind of right there at the city boundary where it transitions into the mining district. As I say, outside of the city's historic district, they did mention in the letter that it is in the proposed mining district, the historic mining district. I actually don't know anything about a proposed national historic mining district for Leadville. So that was interesting, and they did pretty good. That letter did a pretty good job of breaking down the number of contributing structures within the area, the number of non-contributing structures within the area, providing a map that showed all of those. So all that information will be in your packet for the next meeting, and I'll simply just have a staff memo that basically just says these are all the things you consider. They're looking for a determination or comments regarding whether this has an adverse effect on the historic district. So this will be similar to the Community Justice Center, the work session that you did. However, this request at this point is not coming from SHPO. This is just coming from the consulting firm who is basically applying for the section 106 review on behalf of the county. I believe this will go to SHPO so that if you review this and basically reproduce a letter and provide that to the applicant, essentially says whether or not it has an adverse effect, I think there'll be one step ahead when it does go to SHPO. SHPO calls us and we've already reviewed it.
Is there any sort of a financial penalty for doing that?
I don't know.
I think potentially they could have to tear it down. If we say it has an adverse effect, that's going to kick it up. And they might be forced to tear it down. So remember, I went to that section 106 session, so I gave you extensive notes on what our consultation powers are and are not.
You might think about pulling these notes up before our next meeting, if you get a chance. I know we all have just tons of time to do things like that, but.
I have the county, assisted by that Commissioner Marcella to come to the meeting and provide a narrative that will be in your packet and also give a verbal presentation to the background on this. Because right at this point, the only documentation I have is what's been provided from that consultant, which doesn't be, I hadn't called the county and asked, is there another structure that's going in, another tower? And they clarified when it says proposed, it's actually existing.
And this went through, we had to do an extension, they had a CUP because of that whole situation, and it got approved like right before COVID. And
That tower's actually been up there for a while.
they didn't do anything, and then right after, it was right before it was going to expire, they got an extension in and put it. So it's been there a while, actually.
To dig out Steve's notes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like everything, it's just, we just have an advisory capacity, but if we advise that it does have a detrimental effect, then that's gonna be taken seriously by somebody.
And I think the FCC being involved must be, that's some serious stuff. I mean, they could get fined even without this, even if it doesn't find that it's adversely affecting anything, just because it's there before it was supposed to be. I don't know.
Now, do we recommend to the city council again?
No, this is the
Mention.
letter we write up on our recommendation is how we did this. I don't think city council gets involved with usually on a section 106 review, it's they're asking the Historic Preservation Commission.
Just for
Does it adversely affect your historic district? Is that, like, if it's just outside it, like the community justice center, it could make a big difference. It could be, it could definitely adversely affect us, so.
Ultimately, this request should be coming from FCC, and they probably have passed it off to some consultants that they've hired, which they're not supposed to do, but a lot of them do it.
Yeah, I received 2 emails. One was kind of like an automatically generated email from the FCC. It basically just said like a tower notification application or something. And it just has, it's just one of those emails that just has, like a category line and then a 1-line response or something. And where I think the applicant went in, entered in some information, and once they hit submit, just automatically sent it out to all the jurisdictions. And then the second email I received was actually a formal letter, which I'll put the packet from this Front Range consulting firm.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. Okay, anything else from anybody here?
Have we heard anything about that grant?
We have not. I pulled it out, sitting on my desk. I saw that last week was when we should have heard from them. I even checked my spam folder right before the meeting to make sure I didn't get anything out or anything. So I'll probably follow up with that. Because to me, it feels like a week late. So I think it's fair to go ahead and follow up with that.
Okay.
Because they did say we would hear either way. So that's what's making me nervous. We haven't heard anything. So.
Okay. Nothing else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will motion that we adjourn
Second,
the August, whatever, 8th meeting. I'll second that.
okay. All in favor, aye.
Like,
Opposed, no. No. The meeting is adjourned as of 6:07.
Thank you guys very much. Good meeting.